today is all about telling time, and then a subtitle today is the clock is just a number line. So I need those two things in your notebook. If you want to go ahead and make a number line, we're going to be using a number line also. Yes.
No.
What's that?
I know how to.
Good. All right, so this is our title. Go ahead and get it down. All right, we know that a clock looks like this. Go ahead and draw a circle. At the top center, we start at 12. We go around. The bottom middle, right under the 12, is a 6. And then we keep going until we get all the way around. This is a circular number line. If we think about the clock as a number line that just is wrapping around, it's a lot easier for us to understand what's happening. It gets a little tricky at the start and end points. So normally on an on a number line, my starting spot is different than my ending spot. But because a clock is a circle, the starting spot and the ending spot are going to be the same number, which for this case is going to be 12, a big 12. At the beginning of our number line, this means 0 minutes.
But it can also mean.
We're also going to end, because we're going all the way around, we're also going to end back at 12. So our end point is going to be 12. But when we get back to the beginning, we've now gone a road, a space, a line of 60 minutes. So even though we're back at 12, we've gone a different distance. On our clock, in addition to these large 12s we see, we have some other large numbers. We're going to label those numbers on our number line. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and my 12. I'm going to label, these are the large numbers that I see on my number line. Notice I didn't put a tick mark for 12 because my end point is 12 again. Michael, yes?
Like William was saying, like, if it was a rectangle or a square.
If we look closely at our clock, you can see there are smaller lines in between those large numbers. Take a look at the clock on the wall. Give me your Me Too signal so you can see those smaller lines in between the large numbers. Those small lines represent minutes. In between each large number, so in between the 12 and the 1, is a time of 5 minutes. In between the 1 and the 2 is 5 minutes. In between the 2 and the 3, 5 minutes. And that pattern repeats all the way around.
We're counting by 5.
We are counting by 5s. Each large number represents a group of 5. So if my clock is pointing at a 3, and I'm trying to count the minutes, then I know that I've gone 3 groups of 5. 1, 2, 3. We're ready. So each space in between those large numbers is a group of 5 minutes.
This more when some people get confused.
So once I continue to go around my clock, and I go all the way around, I've done 12 groups of 5. What is 12 groups of 5? That's the number of minutes that I've traveled. Victor? Okay, Bella? Yeah, we've done 60 minutes. That means I need to hold up another finger because that cluster of 60 minutes is worth something else. It's kind of like, you remember when we were first learning way back in kindergarten, and you were learning to count? And you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you had to get that tens rod because that was the next unit. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then you got your ones again, and now we had a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now we have another 10. Now we have 2 10s. The same thing is happening on our clock.
Except it's called
We go around 5 minutes, 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 and now we need 1 hour.
So every 6 minutes is going to be an hour.
1 hour is worth 60 minutes. One trip around the clock is worth 1 hour. You put the 12 at the top and then the 6 directly underneath it. That way you don't smush your numbers too much. You can kind of space them out a little bit better. Well,
Why does the clock always have to be like, it has to do with like 60 minutes, 60 hours?
it's just the grouping that we have chosen. I'm not sure why we chose to count by 60s as opposed to 10s or anything else, but that's the base that they chose to work in.
Who's they?
The creators of organizing time. Alright, so we have 2 things when we're trying to tell time.
Aliens.
We are counting.
Space.
I'm writing, that means you are writing. Recording. Come on. We're counting hours and minutes. Some clocks do have seconds on there that they're counting, like the one on my wall. But most people, when they tell the time, they're usually only telling you the hour and the minutes. They're not usually telling the seconds.
20 seconds.
The smaller hand is known as the hour hand. Its job, please stop talking while I'm teaching. Its job is to tell you how many hours have passed. Tells the hour. Alright, my other hand is known as my minute hand. It's still kind of crazy looking.
I'm a dirty.
Our minute hand. Oh my gosh, what is that?
I can't read it. It's carbon.
Minute hand.
Carbon, bro.
So again, we've got minute hand, and that tells the minute. How many minutes have elapsed? Sorry, that got really crazy. Please stop commenting on it. I'm aware it looks crazy. Lincoln?
I kind of look like bro.
Read it. Yes. Yeah, you told me that it looks like brown.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're going to tell the time of this clock. The same time's going to be up there. Let's look at the hour hand first. Because typically, when I'm telling time, I say what hour it is. The hour hand is sometimes the easiest because I don't have to count by minutes. I can just look at the large number that it's pointing to. The hour hand here is pointing to the 10. That means this is 10 something. It's in the 10th hour. We're writing. I should not be the only one writing. Now I need to count my minutes because that's the second part of telling time. I'm going to start at the 12. And I see that it's pointing at the 1. That's going to be one whole jump of 5 minutes. I could also say it's 5 minutes past 10 o'clock. So I would say that it is 10:05. That tells me the hour is 10. The minutes are 5. In standard time, there is no way for me to know if this is AM or PM. That's sometimes a problem. So military time, give me 2 seconds if you've heard of military time. A military clock, a time or a clock that tells military time, keeps counting beyond 12. So the morning, it would say 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, keep going all the way to 12 o'clock. And where we would normally switch back to saying 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they just keep counting. 13 o'clock, 14 o'clock, 15 o'clock, all the way up till 24. That way, if they say, hey, we have a meeting at 14 o'clock, you know exactly what time that is. Instead of saying, we have a meeting at 6 o'clock, is that 6 o'clock in the morning or is that 6 o'clock in the afternoon? So that's the only difference between military time and standard time. Will, question?
No, I just
So Will's asking, I've seen clocks that look like this, 12, 6, 3, and 9, and that's it. None of the other numbers. Will, do you remember when we were first learning multiplication or even first learning area? Yeah. And we had to use squares and grid paper to figure out, oh, a 4 by 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember when we first learned that? But now, because we know the pattern, we can just look at something like this and imagine those squares. We don't have to actually put them. But we can figure out, oh, a 4 by 2, that's 8. Same way. Once you get good at telling time, which most adults are because you have to tell time all the time, you don't need to see those numbers, if that makes sense.
But what about the ones with adding numbers?
So it works the same way. The numbers are in the same spot every single time. I think those are a little more tricky to read. I like it when they have all the numbers, or at least those big 4. So sometimes there are clocks that just have lines.
Oh, yeah. Is there like a speed, like how that is? If you like a speed through?
So you guys know how you ask me all the time how I'm able to type so fast? And my response is usually that the keys don't move. Same thing with a clock. If I erased all those numbers, you would still probably be able to tell what 12 o'clock was. Because you know, you've got it in your brain where the 12 is. The 12 is never, ever going to be over here.
No, I can cut 12.
Alright, let's practice telling time on another clock. Do a quick sketch. If you need to turn your page, you can. Ooh, this one's tricky. It is a little tricky. This one is the minute hand is in between 2 numbers. We're going to talk about it, but go ahead and do a quick sketch of this clock in your notebook. Alright, so this is a little tricky because our minute hand is not pointing at 2, or it's not pointing at 1 number, it's in between. And look, our hour hand is in between 2 numbers as well. Remember, as our minute hand goes, see our minute hand on our clock has moved, now it's 10:10. Look at that hour hand. Is it still pointing directly at the 10?
Yes.
No, it's starting to move closer and closer to the 11 because our time is getting closer and closer to the 11th hour. So it's not going to stay pointing at the 10 and then make a big jump to the 11. It's going to slowly start moving to the 11. So when I look at my hour hand on this clock, I can tell that it was pointing at 2, but because I've had this many minutes, it started moving down to the 3. Is it 3 o'clock yet?
No.
Nope, hasn't touched 3 yet. So the time is still going to be 2 something. There's my hour I'm writing. That means you are writing. Now I need to count some minutes. Just like we talked about, we start at the 12 and we can make jumps of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Can I do that last jump?
Yes.
No, not yet. I made it to 25. If I look at my big clock, I can now count the individual tick marks, which are individual minutes. I don't have them on mine. I'm going to make a guess. I think it might be maybe 3 minutes. That was a good guess? 28. All right, so I've got 3 minutes. 1, 2, 3. So if I count my total minutes, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28. 2, 28 is the time on that clock. Well, yeah. It's a little trickier to tell the exact time unless they have these minute tick marks like that clock does. But when we're talking about the clocks that have less numbers, it's much harder. So that's when we start getting into estimating, which is what your parents probably do. They probably don't say, oh, it's 2:28. They probably say it's about 2:30. It's a close to number. Victor, yes? All right, I think we have one more clock. Yep, this is our last clock. Go ahead and do a quick sketch. We kind of talked about this, but I want to make sure we understand what's happening. Do a quick sketch. We're sketching this clock, gentlemen, not having our own conversation, please.
What does she know?
I do want you to write this question because this is a question that tricks lots of early clock readers. The minutes make sense. You can always count the minutes. People don't get tricked as much on the minutes. But lots of early clock readers do make this mistake. So I want you to write this question, Lincoln. What time is it when the hour hand is in between 2 numbers?
Just
Write that question in your notebook. All right, we just talked about that hour hand. That hour hand is moving slowly to the next hour. It's not going to stay pointing at the hour and then do a really big jump. That wouldn't make any sense. It's slowly moving to the next hour with each passing minute. Let's write that down. The hour hand is slowly moving to the next hour with each passing minute. That means each minute that passes, that hour hand is scooching over just a little bit. It's so slow we can't even really see it. But every time that minute hand goes another minute, that hour hand is starting to scooch. So like in the middle of math choice board, if you look up, And even right now, look, our hour hand has scooted farther from the 10. It's getting closer and closer to that 11.
It seems like it's just waiting in the same place.
It does seem like it stays in the same place, but I promise it is scooching. Just real slow.
I think I just saw it move like
So this will be the same time we talked about. It's that hour hand is right in between 2 and 3. That means it's not 3 o'clock yet. It's getting close to 3 o'clock. Can someone read the time on this clock? Can someone read the time on this clock? Lincoln?
2:30.
2:30.
2:30.
The time on this clock is 2:30. It's not 3:30. It's not quite pointing at the 3 o'clock hour. But it is getting, no, that is the time. But it is getting closer. That hour hand is getting closer to 3 because the minutes are getting closer to be back at 60.